Hey everyone, this is Ashley with What's Up Under That. I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's a little bit different, a little bit on topic. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the term out-of-body experience, but today I want to talk about the correlation between having out-of-body experiences and anxiety. You guys excuse me, my ear itches really bad. So if my voice is like trailing off, that's why. Okay, so like I was saying, anxiety and out-of-body experiences. So this came to me recently because I don't know if I've mentioned this in like past episodes where I realized that I deal with anxiety. Not so much deal with it, but I thought it was gone, and it was like it very much wasn't. But I recently went on a retreat, and when I was in the pool, I was talking to a friend, and I overheard a lady say, and this felt like it was very intentional with everything I'm about to talk about. She said, anxiety is not something that, and she was just like, anxiety is not something you want to get rid of. It is like our, what did she say? It's like our emergency sensors. Our anxiety is what allows us to sense if something is off or there's danger in something that it is that we're doing. And I was just like, you know what? That's a really good way to reframe it. But I know for a lot of people, there also comes that level of discernment. You know, sometimes anxiety may spike and we might not know the reason why. But because we're so focused on getting rid of the anxiety, we don't allow it to pass and then really tune in with our body and be like, you know, what's wrong, what's going on. Or even if like you're in an instance where, you know, you are doing perfectly fine, you know, you say you got invited out to an event and you're excited, you're confident, and you get there and something feels off and you're not listening to it, so it makes you anxious. I'm gonna give an example, a personal example of mine. There was a massage parlor that I was working for, and I had a very off feeling about a client. You know, there had been warning signs here and there, but it didn't feel like it was something serious I need to worry about. Then something that day, my spirit was like, don't take this client. And I listened to that. I let, you know, my manager and everything know, like, look, I don't feel comfortable taking this client. Something feels off about this. And they're like, oh, well, you have all of us supporting you. Just go in and do the massage. And I said, you guys, something is literally telling me not to take this client, and I don't know why. And it got to the point where, you know, I told them I would not take him. Like, you guys can't force me into that room. You guys can't force me to massage him. So this is what happened where that discernment and anxiety comes up. I go to the break room. Next thing I know, my body spikes a fever. Mind you guys, I was perfectly healthy that day. My body spikes a fever. My throat starts bothering me, like all the symptoms of sickness. And I'm just like, anxiety can manifest in different ways. And my hands were shaking. And like I had one of my coworkers, I said, can you please tell me if I'm tweaking or not? I feel my head. And she said, you feel very warm. So I was like, okay. And, you know, that day the managers told me, you know, we're going to have to send you home for the evening until we figure out what direction to go in. And as soon as they let me go home, the fever left, the sore throat was gone, and I felt just like I did when I went into work. And then, you know, fast forward, I ended up getting fired, but I'm like, whatever. I did what I needed to protect myself. And in protecting myself, it also exposed how the massage parlor really viewed me. You know, how they always like, we're family. If you're here, we need us. Y'all know that whole little spiel that jobs be given. And I quickly realized when I did something intuitively that I felt was in my best interest, and they didn't have a worker, they didn't have somebody to bring in money for their clients, they were like, yeah, we can't have you here. So it was a lot of things that were exposed in that moment. But like I said that to say as an example for anxiety, and just listening to it now for the whole thing with anxiety and it being an out-of-body experience. So if you've never had an out-of-body experience, a lot of people, according to Google, it's like when your body and something in you separates from the physical state that it's in. And in spiritual terms, it's essentially when your soul is leaving your body. Some cases you may have control over it. Some cases you don't. I know for me personally, I had an out-of-body experience back in 2017, I want to say. I was laying down on the couch, taking a nap with my son, and out of nowhere, I feel something pulling out of my body. And next thing I know, I'm hovering over my body. I see myself laying there asleep with my son. Like I saw, like I could see the way that my clothes were laid out, the way my legs and stuff were positioned, how my son was laying there. And I'm like, this is some really scary shit. What in the world is going on here? So I'm like freaking out. Like I can see my body. Like I can't remember if it was my body or if it was like me seeing myself over my body. Like I'm jerking, I'm freaking out. I'm like, I need to get back. Next thing you know, my spirit goes back into my body and I wake up out of my sleep. I'm like, what in the fuck just happened? Like, I was completely freaked out, y'all. Completely freaked out. And that's what my out-of-body experience was like. But in terms of equating it to anxiety, a lot of times with anxiety, your mind and your body is racing, your nerves are jumping, jolting, all the things. And it's like, you are essentially trying to run away from your body. You're scrolling on Facebook, you're doing this, you're doing that. You're doing anything you can to make yourself feel calm again. And I feel like there is a lot of correlation between those two, because it's like in that moment your spirit is doing something so that it can feel free, so that it can feel calm. Give me a second, y'all, because I wrote notes on this and I feel like I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm all over the place. I definitely know I wrote notes on this. I just don't know where I wrote them. Give me a second, you guys. One moment, please hold. Where is it? Okay, I don't know if I wrote it or not. Yeah, it's not in my pinned notes, so I'm gonna go off of what it is I was saying. But so with things, like I said, with anxiety, the thing with anxiety sometimes and with out-of-body experiences is you are essentially, the body is trying to release something. The body is trying to get rid of something. It's either trying to release, get rid of, or get your attention. It's generally any of those things. But something too that I noticed with anxiety is it's telling you to release something. For people that deal with trauma and PTSD, it could be a memory coming up. It could be something that happened and it's resurfacing in the body, and the body is like, is this safe? Do we hold on to this? Do we let go of this? Like, what do we do? And in that moment, you have to decide, and this is crazy because all logic goes out the window when you're having an anxiety attack. But when you're not able to make the decision in that moment, your biggest thing is, I have to get myself back into my body. A lot of times that can be the first thing. So what I did was I created some anxiety tips. I recently did this with my son. I've been doing it the last couple days, and it's to the point now, like when I do it, like if I'll stop or pause just to see how he's responding, he's like, no, mommy, keep going. So the first thing And of course, this is not always doable in that moment. So even having this written down, having this, laminated or printed out on somewhere for you to see it every day is extremely helpful. First thing is relax your shoulders and breathe. Because when you're having an anxiety attack, breathing is the last thing that you are doing. Your body, on top of trying to release or decipher what needs to be kept or released, you're hyperventilating. In certain cases, you're hyperventilating in this state. Even if it's not like, it's very much still hyperventilating, even if it's not audible, so to speak. So relax your shoulders and breathe. The next thing I say to my son is, where are you? So as an example, we did this yesterday. I was asking him something and it triggered something in him to where he felt like what he needed in that moment he was not going to receive. So I said, where are you? And he was fighting it for a little bit. I said, I understand that, but I said, where are you? He said, I'm in the living room. I said, okay. And doing this, especially in a calm voice, I asked him, I said, what do you see around you? Tell me 3 things that you see. He said, I see the couch, I see the dining room table, and I see a door. I said, okay. And I said, what are you touching right now? What's in your hands? Because a lot of the time, for me specifically, when I have anxiety, I feel it very badly in my hands and my stomach. He said, I'm not holding anything. I said, are you touching anything? He said, no. And I looked, I said, where are your hands? He said, on the floor. So I said, what are you touching? He's like, I'm touching the carpet. I said, okay. I said, how does that feel? He was just like, I don't know. I'm like, okay. As long as you know you're touching something, that's all that matters. And I said, what are you sitting on? And he was like, I'm sitting down. I said, no, what are you sitting on? I'm like, are you sitting on an object, a chair, a couch, the floor? He was like, I'm sitting on the floor. I said, okay. And I was just like, what's up under your feet? And he was like, the floor. I said, okay, be a little bit more specific. What's on the floor? He's like, the carpet. I said, okay, you're touching the carpet? He was like, yeah. So after he did that, I asked him, I was just like, okay, are you in a position to answer the question I just asked you? Like, can you hear me? Are you listening? He said, yeah. And after that, that's when we finished the discussion. But it was in that moment that it was like, until he felt that sense of safety, there was no forcing past that or bypassing that to get him to answer that question. And I did this same thing with my best friend. I noticed when I woke up and seen her text, like her energy felt anxious. And I was just like, when I wake up all the way, I'll touch bases back on this. And that was when, we did all the things. And my point in that moment was to get her back to a state so she could see what it was she was running from in that moment. Why didn't she feel safe in that moment? I needed to get her back into her body. And just like with my son, I needed to get him back into his body so that he could explain to me what was wrong. Because in that moment, he was so frustrated and angry, he couldn't tell me. And that's also the thing, like with anxiety. Anxiety can bring about a lot of emotions. And until you get yourself back settled, you can't assess or understand any of those emotions. Because even like with my friend with the anxiousness and stuff, come to find out, she wasn't irritable, she wasn't angry, she was sad. That's what it was. She was sad because she was overwhelmed with all the things that were changing and taking place in her life, and she didn't know what way to process it, so she kept going. And like how I told you guys in the beginning, when you're having an anxiety attack, you'll do anything to make it stop. So you'll keep moving, like, oh, maybe movement is what I need. And not to say that that's not necessary for other people, but a lot of times, sometimes you just need to sit in that space when it comes to that. Not sitting in it, so to speak, but sitting in that space. And what made me come up with this was because that whole thing, what are 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, that whole thing. That gave me anxiety because one of the things is smell and taste. What if I'm in a room? What am I supposed to get up and smell some perfume? If I'm anxious, the last thing I'm going to be thinking to do is get up and smell something to make sure, like, oh, did I smell the amount of things I'm supposed to smell? Did I taste the amount of things? Like, what if I don't taste anything? So it's like, okay, what number is taste supposed to be at? Is taste supposed to be at 3 or is it supposed to be at 1? And it's like in that state, you can't really remember all those things. And it's like there's something that has to be done in the moment of stillness. And like I said, that was why I came up with that part. And I also too, I partially combined this with what I noticed in meditation. When I do my meditations, one of the things the guy says is pay attention to the surface you're laying on. Notice how you are supported by this item. Do you feel comfortable where you are, or do you need to make some adjustments? And I really like that because so often, even if we are not having anxiety, we don't realize that 11:11, Ashe, we don't realize we're not in our body. We're so zoned out and disconnected from our body, like we're damn near having out-of-body experiences all day. We are not as present as we need to be. And that is something that I had to realize with myself. I'm not as present as I need to be. That's why it's so easy for me to always be so tapped into the spiritual realm, is because a good amount of the day I'm not in my body. And I was just like, aside from doing activities and cooking and things like that, what is another tool that what's another tool that I can add to this, so that is why what sparked this whole, I know y'all, this may seem all over the place, but that's what sparked this revelation and what sparked me to create this tip, because I said, I want something tangible that people can use wherever they are. They don't have to worry about, do I have this or that? It's literally just about focusing on what you have available. A lot like magic in general. If you don't have all the fancy herbs and candles and things like that, they always say, use a white candle, because white can be used for anything. Use a glass of water. If you don't have anything else, use salt or rosemary in place of any other herb. And in instances that you don't have that, you have the power of prayer and you have your mind. Just like how they say words are spells, praying is spells. What are you praying over yourself? What are you praying over other people? So I really hope this episode was helpful. It's been very helpful for me utilizing it with my son, because I've recently realized that he does have really bad anxiety, and essentially I wanted to create a tool for him to help him get back into and stay into his body, because especially for those that are into the zodiac thing, Geminis rule not only communication, they're ruled by Mercury, which rules the nervous system, the electrical impulses. And for Geminis, but air signs especially, it's very important that they have tools to keep them grounded. And I won't even just say air signs, I'd say Virgo too, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury and it rules the gut. Our nervous system is also fucking gosh. Okay, the recording didn't stop, but I am definitely gonna have to do some editing there because I cursed. I got a phone call, you guys. But back I was saying, Virgo rules the gut. And a lot of times our nervous system is ruled by our gut, which goes back to that story I told with listening to your gut in that moment. Your gut, your anxiety is trying to tell you something, and just how that correlates with out-of-body experience. So the whole thing in that was just out-of-body experience, getting yourself back into your body, ensuring that you're safe, and once you're safe, asking yourself what was trying to be told to me in that moment. And I will say this too, because it's coming up in my head. People that experience anxiety with school, it's not that they need to try harder. It's not that, they need to do anything differently. It's what ways are you not feeling supported that's causing you to have anxiety? What support is it that you are needing in this moment? And I know another example, since we're on the topic of school, when I started massage school, I was there for my orientation, and it was anatomy and physiology. And mind you guys, I hadn't been back to school since, God knows how long. And in that moment of talking about everything we were going to be learning about the body, I had an anxiety attack in front of 36 people, me included in that 36. And I had never had an anxiety attack before. And in that moment, I had to do affirmations. I had to affirmation and breathe myself out of an anxiety attack because I felt like I was dying. And I was just like, it's okay. If everything is fine, you're just overwhelmed because this class is something new and it's taking you back to a place where you did not feel supported, but you're gonna be okay. And as I said those things, I sat there and I breathed as much as I can, and next thing you know, I'm out of an anxiety attack. My very first one, on top of the fact I've never had an anxiety attack. I've had anxiety in the past, but I've never had anxiety attacks where I literally feel like I'm dying. So I'm like, the fact that I was able to affirmation and breathe my way out of that, so I'm just like, if I can get through this in front of 36 people, I can get through anything. And I want that to also be helpful for you all as well. And of course, this isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all. Like I say with my readings, if it resonates, take it. If it doesn't, leave it where it's at. In the words of an old friend of mine, chew the meat and spit the bone. So, I hope all of this was helpful. Per usual, leave me a voice message. If you want to email me, you can do that. I know that's a little bit more private because I know a lot of people, when they discuss things with me, they'd rather it be private. If you want to email me, you can. My email is brujas2blunts@gmail.com, and I will talk to you all soon. All right, bye.